check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus. Available to use online, at ATMs or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Playle and I'm joined by Racing Post colleague David Baxter, and across the water, we have Justin O'Hanlon and Paul Binfield from Paddy Power. Good morning, gents. We've got an awful lot to cover. Obviously, Royal Ascot has been and gone. What a fantastic week it was. We're going to jump straight into it, try not to linger too much on everything. It's been an incredible few days, and then we're going to look forward to the Irish Derby, obviously, and that festival at the Curragh this weekend. But we'll jump straight into it and talk about the milers first off. We had Churchill, one of the shocks of the week, beaten in the St James's Palace by Barney Roy. I'll kick off by asking, do you think that was a reproduction of his genuine form? What did you make of his defeat, David? We'll go to you first.
I mean, Aidan didn't come up with much in the immediate aftermath, or even
Didn't he say he's off his feed?
Yeah, which isn't, happens to a lot of horses. It wasn't sort of the most concrete of reasons, and there was sort of talk about it was a hot day and perhaps that got to him, but that was the same for every horse there. So I'm not, until he proves me otherwise, I'm not interested in getting behind him again. He needs to come back stronger, because I thought there were obviously Barney Roy put in a great performance, and Ribchester. He's going to need to really prove that he is as good as again now as everyone sort of thought before Ascot. Okay,
yeah. So you don't sort of take that as a genuine production of his best, or do you think he's just shown all he can, and maybe now they're showing the relevant improvement to come forward? Obviously, Lancaster Bomber finished so close. Does that not worry you a little bit?
I mean, you've got one of our colleagues, Paul Keeley, always sort of says you can forgive a horse one bad run, and I'm entitled with a horse like this. Who, he's not suddenly, you'd like to think, after winning so many Group 1s, going to drop down that badly, and perhaps it was too bad to be true. I would give him another chance, but I wouldn't give him any of my money at the moment, put it that way.
Okay, Justin, what did you make of the St James's Palace and indeed Ribchester in the Queen Anne?
Well, Churchill ran absolute stink. There's no doubt about it. Any look at the form will say Barney Roy beating Lancaster Bomber by a neck or whatever he beat him was an exact reproduction.
I think it was a bit more than that in the end, but yeah, it was quite hard fought, wasn't it, in the end?
It was an exact reproduction of the Newmarket form. There's nothing there to suggest that Barney Roy or indeed Lancaster Bomber have improved. That run, that the Ascot run was an improvement on behalf of either of them. Churchill just ran no race at all, and if he comes back to his old form, there's no doubt in my mind that he will prove superior to the two by the end of the season. Whether he proves superior to Ribchester or not is another matter. As what I can see Churchill doing, he will take on Ribchester in the Sussex, but after that I can probably see him stepping up to 1.25 miles for the Irish Champion Stakes, and I think we're probably going to deal with Winter later on, but my long-range forecast is that Winter will end up being their miler by the end of the season, as Minding was last year. But no, Churchill ran no race. If he comes back to his best, he'll beat those two again.
Do you think he will come back to his best?
I don't see why not.
No?
I don't see why not.
No, okay. Solid point. Paul, what did you make of Barney Roy and the whole Churchill escapade, and indeed Ribchester?
Inconclusive, Maddie. I did think Barney Roy might well beat Churchill. I think
of course you did.
I did, yeah. I thought Barney Roy had a number of excuses at Newmarket, but inconclusive. If Churchill had finished second, I would have been happy enough. But as he finished fourth, I don't think it was his running, and I can't wait to see Barney Roy against Churchill again, possibly with Ribchester thrown in the mix as well.
Yeah, I think Barney Roy is still very inexperienced horse. A lot of people need to perhaps bear that in mind, and maybe there is some potential improvement still left to be had. They were thinking of him as a Derby horse, weren't they? So I'd be interested to see if he ever went up in trip.
Do you think he improved from Newmarket though, Maddie? That's the question.
Well, that's what you say. On the bare looks of it, probably not.
You could actually make a case for saying that he's disimproved since Newmarket if you're a
I guess so. No. I guess so. But for my eye, I think I'd be interested in seeing him up in trip. But it looks like we will see Ribchester taking on Barney Roy and perhaps Churchill in that Sussex Stakes. Paul, how do they bet with Paddy Power for the Sussex Stakes?
Well, we make Ribchester odds on, Maddie, 4-5, Churchill 5-2, Barney Roy 7-2, 7 Muta KF, and then Winter, who I think we're just about to talk to, about 10-1, 12 bar.
Yeah, indeed. I'm a bit sad that Le Bravido, the Jersey Stakes winner, won't go. I think they said the undulations of the track won't suit him, but I think he'd be. I think he's quite a classy horse. We will talk about Winter now, whether she'll go to the Falmouth or the Sussex or, blimey, whatever Ballydor wish to do with her. David, what did you make of Winter in the Coronation Stakes? She's getting very professional, isn't she?
Yeah. There's nothing in her age group now this season I don't think is going to touch her at a mile. She just keeps proving it. She's clearly the best there. So the next logical step is she needs to take on older horses so we can get a better idea of her overall standing. And the Ballydor mob will just, do what's best for the horse, and it's up to them. And whatever she does, really, you just got to follow her still, haven't you? So
yeah, I think it was interesting. Ryan Moore said, she's only done as much as she had to do there because she wasn't probably as visually impressive as she was at the Curragh, that she didn't go that far clear, but she's just miles better than these, isn't she, Justin?
Yeah, I think Moore has changed his tune a little bit from saying at the Curragh that he wouldn't mind riding Rhododendron if the two of them met again after Newmarket. But no, she's absolutely rock solid. What David said, I concur with completely. I think they will keep her up against fillies for now. The Falmouth is the probable target. The Matron Stakes after that, and as I say, I could see her taking on the older colts in the QE2 in the autumn. But at the end of the season, I think she's probably going to be their top miler.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. If I put a gun to all of your heads, I'm just going to go over now and say, who would you back for the Sussex Stakes with Ribchester, Barney Roy, Churchill, throw in Winter there if you want as well, why not? Paul, we'll go to you first. Who would you pick in that face-off?
I'm not sure I want to back anything odds on, although Ribchester's obviously a brilliant miler, so I'll stick with Barney Roy, Maddie.
Okay. What about you, Justin?
I think Ribchester is probably a silly price at odds on. I think that's what he's for the Sussex at the moment. If you leave last Tuesday out of it, they'd probably be joint favourites for the race, wouldn't they? Ribchester and Churchill. Ribchester, on current evidence, you'd have to say is the top miler around, but that could change.
Okay, I think he did well. He did all he had to do in the Queen Anne. I'd argue he probably wants a bit more cut in the ground than what he had at Ascot. What about you, David? Any strong fancies on who you'd pick to win that Sussex?
Sadly, I'd have to go favourite as well. Not very original, but, I just think on the basis of form from last week and overall, Ribchester, I don't know, they seem to make that there was some questions to answer before Ascot, and then, as you say, he did it very professionally. He couldn't do any more. He almost got impeded by his own pacemaker at one point, still came through. And I liked the way, just in the last 50 yards, he just cleared away when he needed to.
He did what he had to do,
yeah,
isn't
exactly.
it? Yeah.
So I'd back him. Although, that said, I'd probably be looking to back on the day, because I reckon there'll be a little bit of a drift out just to around the evens, maybe. A little bit.
Yeah, perhaps.
Think they should find another role for Toscanini at this stage.
Blimey, maybe. I think, I don't think she's going to go, but I wouldn't be surprised if Winter turned out to be the best of all of these. That's just my personal opinion. We've covered the milers now. We'll move on. It's competition time now. Every week we give listeners and viewers the chance to win a £25 free €25 bet, courtesy of our sponsors, Paddy Power. All you have to do is answer the simple question and tweet your answer using the hashtag Postcast. Today's question is, who finished as top jockey at Royal Ascot? The answer will be announced on Friday's show.
Introducing Paddy Power's Hot Trot Jackpot, their new free-to-enter horse racing competition. Every Saturday, pick 5 horses in a free Lucky 31 bet for your chance to win the guaranteed £10,000 jackpot. T&Cs apply. 18+ begambleaware.org.
Okay, welcome back to the Monday Postcast. We've covered the milers. We're going to go on to the sprinters now. I remember my colleague Lee Motter said, I think he tweeted something saying sprinting sexy again. It was this week after some of the performances we saw. We'll kick off with Caravaggio, which I think would be many people's highlight of the week. How do we reckon he'll fare against the older sprinters? Looking forward to the July Cup, which we presume he's going to go for. And then throwing in, obviously, the Tin Man, Lady Aurelia as well. We'll start with Caravaggio and that potential July Cup clash with the Tin Man, etc. David, you first. What did you make of Caravaggio?
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? As you say, one of, if not the highlight of the week. Beat 2 easy Group 1 sprinters, I think. Form looks great. And it's just the way they talk about the horse. Aidan and Ryan Moore aren't given the superlatives particularly, but when asked, Ryan said, I thought it was an exceptional race. And then when Aidan, they asked, is this the fastest horse you've ever had? And without a doubt. The fact they're talking about the Everest, going all the way to Australia to take on their great sprinters, they just, you get the impression they think this is a really, really special sprinter, and he's done nothing to prove otherwise yet. So, yeah, it was brilliant.
I mean, he obviously reared in the stalls and there was that bit of drama, and I didn't think Ryan was entirely happy with him after that incident, but I think he did exceptionally well to win, given the quality of rivals he was up against, to overcome all of that, and I just think he's very good. Justin, we'll move on to you next. Can you think anything will get near to him in the July Cup? What did you make of the Tin Man?
The Tin Man is a very good horse, and he obviously can't be underestimated. But I think the interesting thing for me this year with the sprinters is that you're definitely seeing a clear delineation between 5 furlong horses and 6 furlong horses. I couldn't see Caravaggio coming back to 5 to take on Lady Aurelia.
No.
Although it's not impossible for her to step up to 6, I suppose. But no, I reckon the July 6 furlongs is absolutely tailor made for Caravaggio. He's 2 out of 2 this season, but he's just hit maybe a little bit of a flat spot in those 2 races, just very, very briefly. I think a testing 6 furlongs, the testing 6 furlongs at Newmarket and the uphill finish is going to suit him ideally. I think they learned a big lesson, from Air Force Blue last year, where they tried to turn him from a sprinter into a miler, and the danger was, or the inclination was, or the questioning was, would Caravaggio do the same thing? Would Caravaggio be trained as a Guineas horse? He wasn't. He was always a sprinter. Isn't
it funny now though? It looks like he could go over a mile.
I think he could go over 7, definitely.
Yeah.
I think he could even be better over 7 than he is over 6. But he's an exceptionally good 6 furlong sprinter. The Tin Man, you wouldn't underestimate him, but I doubt anything that ran in that Diamond Jubilee is going to trouble him. That was probably the best 3-year-old 6 furlong sprint we've seen. I can't remember since when.
Yeah, definitely. It was just star quality, wasn't it? Those front 3 are exceptional. Talking of the July Cup, Paul, how do you bet, and what do you make of Caravaggio? And if anything can get anywhere near him, we're being quite boring here and just saying, no, he's a machine.
Yeah, well, 11 to 10 Caravaggio, Maddie, 6 Limato and the Tin Man, 8 Harry Angel and Tasley, 12 Bar. Actually, I think a few could beat Caravaggio at Newmarket.
Really?
At those odds, I wouldn't like to be taking 11 to 10. I think it was interesting that Ryan Moore said to Henry Candy, go for the July Cup, because that wouldn't have helped Caravaggio's chances with Limato against him. So,
do you not think Caravaggio's just way better and Ryan thinks, go for it and we'll beat you anyway?
Well, possibly, but I think Limato might not have had the best of the draw. And also, don't forget about Harry Angel and Blue Point. They weren't far behind Caravaggio in an absolute classic contest. And if Caravaggio's got a sore throat on the day, or anything small that might impede his chances, luck in running, then Harry Angel at 8 to 1 and Blue Point at 12 to 1 aren't bad prices.
Okay, that's really interesting. Talking of Harry Angel, a lot of people said in the aftermath they should just drop him back to 5. And that brings us on to talking about the Nunthorpe. Justin's already mentioned how there's sort of this very stern division between the 2 sprinting distances. Lady Aurelia, we could see her back at York for the Nunthorpe. I think most people are presuming that's where she'll go. Maybe, like I said, Harry Angel could drop back. And then we have the likes of the fillies and the younger horses who are going to get these allowances, the likes of Heartache, who I think could have a cracking chance if she went for it. Paul, if we go back to you and get some Nunthorpe betting first, and then that'll put us in a bit of a shape to have a bit of a discussion.
Yeah, it's even money, Lady Aurelia. 5 to 1 Harry Angel, 8 Marsha, 10 Limato, 12 Heartache and 14 Bar.
I am interested in that Heartache. I think she's a quality filly. David, we'll go to you. What do you make of the Nunthorpe and looking back on Lady Aurelia's King's Stand performance?
Yeah, I seem to keep coming on the podcast, and then I have to talk about Lady Aurelia and the Nunthorpe. It's just a recurring theme because I think she will win, and I thought she would win it last year, this time in a year's time. So I've got to stick with her. I'm sort of in fully.
You can't go against her now.
No, exactly. And the way she won the King's Stand, it was great. It was, she obviously comes alive at Ascot. You'd need to see her. You'd hope she can do the same at York. Slightly different track, but not too dissimilar. It's not like she'd be going to Goodwood, where she'd obviously need to handle undulations. So, no, I really hope she turns up, and I'll be back in it. Just to quickly go back to the July Cup, I would give the Tin Man a chance if the ground is like it was when Mason won. I think that'd be the only way something's going to get near him. So.
Okay, very interesting. Justin, what do you make of the Nunthorpe now we've had the betting? Who would your selection be?
Oh, I mean, if Lady Aurelia runs, she's an absolute certainty. There's no getting away from it. That was an exceptional performance last week, I thought. You do not see quality sprinters being taken apart at the end of a race like she did to those. I mean, I thought Stravinsky in the Nunthorpe was the best performance I'd ever seen over 5 furlongs, but that surpassed it in my view. I think she's an absolute certainty if she runs.
Yeah, I worried about her beforehand, and I was just, absolutely ridiculed and made a fool of. I think what she did to horses who had the likes of Profitable, who had their conditions, there was no excuses for them, and she just, like you say, tore them to shreds.
And going away from them at the end, and powering away from them at the end. It was an exceptional performance.
Yeah, absolutely. No getting away from that, as much as it pains me to say how much I've been taking the mickey out of it for since. We'll move on to other performances. We've done sprinters and milers. Now, we need to talk about Highland Reel, and obviously his performance in the Prince of Wales, dropping down in trip. Him and his stablemate Idaho could well go to the King George. We'll start with the King George and how that race is shaping up. And we'll go to you, Paul, first for some King George betting, please.
Yeah, 5-4 Highland Reel, 7-1 Jacobs, 8 Ulysses and Frontiersman along with Enable, 10 Idaho and 12 Bar.
Now, he's been a bit of an unsung hero, hasn't Highland Reel? Are we not giving him enough credit, David?
I don't know. I think he is now beginning to emerge as, sort of this. I think I used the word iron horse last week. I'll sort of go back to what I know. He's so tough. He's quite versatile in terms of, people were thinking, is he going to be a bit vulnerable back down in trip? But no, can still get the job done. He's probably going to be one of those ones that we don't necessarily will talk about once he's finished in more glowing terms than right now, because he's not that glamorous, is he? He's very solid, but you never come away thinking, God, that was amazing. But people do love him, and he is a very dependable and solid horse.
More of that later, because someone's actually asked me to ask about that. What did you make of Idaho, just while we're at it?
Yeah, it was good. Whether I think it's great,
good.
Yeah, I can't be going overboard on that performance. But it was a Royal Ascot win. He did it well. I don't have much more to say on Idaho than that. Any
King George bet that you would take at this point?
I don't like the market very much. I mean, Highland Reel is short, and he has to be because he's beaten those that are behind him, but it doesn't really offer too much value for me.
It is a little bit of a muchness, isn't it? I'd be interested in Enable if she was to go and John Gosden was to try and do a Tagruda. Justin, what do we make of the King George, Highland Reel, Idaho? Anything else?
Not really. I imagine Enable is far more likely to go for the Irish Oaks, isn't she, than the...
Is she? Right, okay.
Well,
I know John Gosden mentioned the King George after the Oaks.
Yeah, well, he's a bit of a traditionalist, isn't he? He likes his Epsom and Irish Derby horses and his Epsom and Irish Oaks horses. I think she's just more likely to go there, I would have thought.
Well, I've been well and truly turned down with that suggestion, but that's probably understandable. Paul, what do you make of the King George?
Yeah, Highland Reel, Aidan said, was unbelievably courageous the other day, and he's got a favourites chance. It does look a very difficult market to this one, Maddie. It depends what's going to happen. Jacobs and Enable from the same stable. I agree with Justin. I think Enable will go to Ireland. Idaho, will he come back for the King George? Aidan said he can do plenty of travelling, hopefully, so maybe he might go somewhere else. I just think it's a tricky enough market at the moment, although Jacobs would go there with a chance if he turns up.
I wasn't overly encouraged by what I saw of Jack Hobbs at Ascot. I think I said beforehand he's difficult to trust, and that sort of confirmed it. Moving on, I mean, I've just said that the Commonwealth Cup was one of the races of the week. Being a big soppy National Hunt fan, seeing Big Orange win the Gold Cup was just incredible, I think. The way everyone got behind him and the reception he got afterwards was just wonderful. Where do we see those two going next? Is it not quite a predictable campaign that they're both going to maybe face off again at Goodwood and then look at something like the Melbourne Cup, David?
I mean, if that's predictable, great, bring it on. I mean, I can't wait to see them take each other on again. If it goes to Goodwood, so much the better. It gives everyone something to look forward to straight away with the meeting. if the Commonwealth Cup was the race of the week, that had to be the finish of the week. It was great, and like you say, there was all the sort of human interest side a bit more with the bells and Big Orange and the horse himself, and it was just brilliant. So wherever they turn up, hopefully they're just going to keep taking each other on, and everyone who gets to watch gets treated.
Yeah, indeed. Do either of you, Justin or Paul, have any thoughts on the staying division, or do you just think it's something now we can just enjoy?
Are they going to let Rupert Bell do the course commentary for the Goodwood Cup? Are they?
I hope they should. I thought he was brilliant. It's great to see, I think, flat racing getting a gist of that emotion and, real heartwarming stuff that the jumps bring.
It was understandable, but it was unprofessional, really, wasn't it?
If Peter O'Sullivan did that with a TiVo now, he wouldn't have commented in the BBC.
Oh, I think you've been a bit harsh. I think it was.
I said it was understandable, but
I think it made the race just as exciting.
Maybe I'm just getting old and cranky.
I think you're being a bit of a cynic there.
That's probably it. It looks as though Ardor St George is going to go to Goodwood, and presumably Big Orange was always going to go there. So it's I just had my doubts about Ardor St George going past horses at the end of a race.
He's not always been the most reliable, has he? He's not had excuses in the past when he's not won.
Well, I thought that when Wicklow Brave beat him in the Irish Ledger last year. Originally Moore came in for a fair bit of criticism for the rate he gave the horse, and I looked at it and said that he didn't want to go past. And that might be a little bit harsh on last week, but Big Orange, maybe just wanted it a fraction more than Ardor St George did.
I totally agree. I think a lot of people have been crabbing more for his ride on Ardor St George. I think, yes, he was given plenty to do, but he also had a lot of time to do it. And if you watch that final furlong again, I think it's simply a case of one horse just wanting it more than the other. Ardor of St George has clearly got that quality. But Big Orange, he just put his neck out and did what he does best, didn't he? David.
George takes a lot. He takes a lot out of himself as well. I think Ardor St George, he tends to get very hot beforehand, and maybe that's just him. But maybe it takes its toll at the finish as well when he's up against something that's as good as him.
Yeah, and Big Orange, it's a very economical horse, isn't he? The way he uses his energy and the front running tactics can be manipulated. I was just going to go to you, David, and ask, what did you make of Moore's ride? Do you think it was the best horse won, or do you think it was an absolute shocker?
It wasn't an absolute shocker.
No, I don't think
way.
So.
He did give it plenty to do, but I wouldn't say hostage to fortune, but that was the way the race panned out. That he was far back and he was there. But if Ryan thought he needed to be closer, knowing how good a jockey he is, obviously he gets talked as the world's best, quite rightly, he would have got closer. I would suggest he felt he was happy where he was. Maybe he might like to have been half a horse closer, but he couldn't be. He had the time, he got the gap,
These races,
came with a sustained
fall in
run.
a heap, don't they?
Yeah, the horse had every chance, and on the day, Big Orange just seemed to want it that little bit more and stuck his neck out that bit more. I don't think it was a shocker. I think given the actual discussion about it is great, because sometimes
jockeys get away with murder.
Yeah, some jockeys will come in for more flack than others, and some jockeys sometimes are beyond reproach. So it's nice to see that you can have a discussion about it, but I don't think it was, as you said, I don't think it was a shocker.
How many Ascot Gold Cups have you won?
Right. In fairness, David, it was one of the rides of the week by James Doyle.
Exactly. The flip side being, if Ryan had done the other way around, what would we be saying? Would we be castigating James, or would we be saying, again, another more masterpiece? So
he's just a great horse for jockeys to ride, Big Orange, it sounds, because as Frankie Dettori told Doyle, you don't interfere, you let him get on with it, and then the minute you ask him, he's going to give you 110%. We'll now move on.
Can I just say, we have priced this race up deliberately for the Postcast, and we've gone.
Sorry, my mistake.
That's okay. We've gone 5-4 Big Orange, 2 Ardor of St George. The prices would indeed be closer, but the race is an option for Ardor of St George, and Aidan has previously said he'll have a similar campaign to last year, which might bring in the Irish St Ledger trial.
Perhaps, but I think he did say he was quite keen to go to Goodwood. Maybe I've heard that wrong. But anyway, no, thank you for those. Wasn't aware we had those. We'll move on now to a highlight of the week from each of you and your best anti-post bet for the rest of the flat season. David, you first.
Highlight of the week, I was lucky to be there on Tuesday and just getting to see Richard Spencer in floods of tears and smiles alternatively with Raja Singh was great. It's nice to see smaller yards getting the chance, and hopefully that will lead to, better things for him and the yard.
Doing very well, isn't
Yeah, and hopefully the horse as well. I mean, I know there's already a bit of rumblings about was it that good a Coventry. I think it was an open Coventry, which can sometimes suggest it's not the strongest of years, but you still got to win the race. He did it in a course record time, so we just got to wait and see how the form pans out. So that was my highlight. Anti-post bet, I might get shot down in flames here and ridiculed. Sir John Lavery for the Ledger.
Blimey.
I know.
Right.
He was staying on, albeit pretty slowly.
You sound even quite doubtful of yourself.
I want to see him in a trial. So at the moment it would be a tiny play anti-post. If he just could run well in a trial, then I think we might see the price come down. I think we saw probably stronger St Ledger candidates come out through the week, but I just like the way that this is a horse who had a reputation, hasn't really kicked on yet this season, but is in the right yard, and I don't know, I like the way he was staying on, as I say, albeit slowly, and perhaps there's just that bit more to come over 2 furlongs more.
You never know with Ballydoyle. It seems at some point the penny will just drop and it all makes sense, like you say. No, interesting nevertheless. Paul, what's your highlight of the week and your anti-post bet for the rest of the season?
Highlight of the week, Snow winning the Wolverton for Tim Easterby. 25 to 1, but Tim had one runner at the meeting, so absolutely brilliant. Well done to a smaller trainer. Anti-post bet for the season, Caravaggio at 5 to 1 for a race called the Everest in Australia.
Justin, highlights on anti-post bet?
As a pure performance, I think Lady Aurelia's King's Stand was the highlight of the week. And I'll throw in one. It's another Ledger one, like with David, but it's a horse that's not even entered in the Ledger. But I think it might be. It might be tempting, and that's a colt of Jessica Harrington's called Grandee, who
never heard of it in my life.
Won a mile and a half listed race at Leopardstown a couple of weeks ago, the King George V Cup. I think the horse was crying out for a mile and 6 on good ground. He's a bit of an under the radar type of one.
Okay.
But he's actually still entering the Derby on Saturday.
Oh really?
I doubt he'll run, but stepping up to a mile and 6, he could be a real player for a good race at the end of the season.
Okay, I'm just going to slip in there and say I thought I was really impressed with September as well. Be interesting to see, obviously, a daughter of Peeping Fawn out of Deep Impact where she goes. And I've already mentioned it, Heartache, I think, for the Nunthorpe could be very, very interesting. Clive Cox is brilliant with these sprinters.
Introducing Paddy Power's Hot Trot Jackpot, their new free-to-enter horse racing competition. Every Saturday, pick 5 horses in a free Lucky 31 bet for your chance to win the guaranteed £10,000 jackpot. T&Cs apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.
OK, we've rattled through our Royal Ascot review. Nice bit of alliteration there. Surprised I didn't stumble. We're going to look ahead to the Irish Derby weekend at the Curragh. I'll go to you, Paul, and get some betting for that. But first, I just want to touch on this, Justin. We've spoke about the Curragh before and obviously the developments that they're going through. Do you think it should be run at the Curragh?
I think they should have closed the track down for a year. And if they did that, they probably would have got everything done by the end of 1 year.
Blimey, so strong stance on that from
At the moment, it's not good. I mean, the Guineas weekend was the Saturday, the 2000 Guineas Day was an absolute shambles, and they did improve it on the Sunday. But you know, it's if you walk it's a very, very small area. I don't know how they're going to fit 6,000 into it. There you go. We'll see.
So are you going to be there? You can give us an update on that afterwards, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we are a long way away from where the crowd are, so we're way down at the back. So I'll be far too busy to be hobnobbing amongst the high polloi, I'm afraid.
It's a shame, is it? Paul, have you got any thoughts on that and the Irish Derby at the Curragh?
Yeah, I'd much rather see it at Leopardstown, Maddie. I think it's a shame we're only going to get 6,000 there. And yeah, if it went to Leopardstown, clearly the crowd would be much bigger. And if it comes up a hot day, it could be uncomfortable for everyone, but let's just hope we see a great spectacle. And I know the Curragh are trying to do their utmost best in difficult circumstances.
Well, if it's a wet day, it'd be far worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it was anything like the meeting there before, it could be miserable. Anyway, we'll move on from that and get some betting for the Irish Derby, Paul.
Yeah, 2 to 1 Cracksman, 5 to 2 Wings of Eagles, 3 to 1 Veldgeist, 9 Capri and Douglas MacArthur, and then 12 to 1 Bar.
And I think we've briefly mentioned this before on a few earlier postcasts, but we'll stick with you, Paul. And what's your view on the Irish Derby?
Well, I think it's very interesting, Maddie. It's a great race. I do think Cracksman will turn around the form with Wings of Eagles from Epsom, but I'm going to go for Valgeist for Andre Fabre. I think he was beaten by a very, very good horse in Bramato in the French Derby, only beaten a short head. So he goes there as a very close to being a Derby winner himself, and at 3-1, I like the price against the top two in the market.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think this Bramato, he's got the look of a real quality horse, and obviously Libravido boosted his French Guineas form in the Jersey Stakes, so Valgeist could be one. I know Andre Fabre is quite confident coming into it. Justin, do you think Wings of Eagles or Cracksman or anything else?
I'm finding this race a bit of a puzzle. I think the more I look at it, Valgeist probably looks the most likely winner. Obviously, very little to choose.
Quite surprised you two would go with the French horse.
Yes, I should be worried that I'm on the same wavelength as Binfield here. It's
you should, Justin.
It is an unfamiliar position for me. I'll put it that way. But Cracksman, I was talking to Aidan a couple of weeks beforehand, and I got no inclination whatsoever that they Wings of Eagles was even on their mind as a horse that could win that race at Epsom. Whether it's you don't win a derby by fluke, I suppose, but whether he'll confirm the form of Cracksman at the Curragh, I think Cracksman will be well suited by the Curragh, despite the fact he's run well twice at Epsom. I think Cracksman could very easily turn the tables on, but Valgeist could well be a class apart.
Do you not think Wings of Eagles, as much as the course might suit Cracksman, I'm a bit bemused as to why you think, Wings of Eagles beat him fair and square. Is the Curragh not going to suit him?
Well, he came from a long way off. He came from a hell of a long way off the pace. I mean, he was only about 2 or 3 behind him, turning into the straight. I don't think you're going to be dealing with a smaller field of the Curragh. I don't think it's going to. He's not going to have as many horses to run at, if you like. I think Cracksman is just maybe could even be a little bit more straightforward in the way you can ride him in a race, possibly.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's a lot of questions to be answered. It's we are still dealing with horses that we don't know a whole lot about. And you put Valgeist in that category as well. It could be a bit of a dangerous race for punters, but I think the French Derby form might just be a little bit stronger than the Epsom Derby form. It's looking like at the moment, despite the fact I know Permian came out and won last week, but
and Ben Battle obviously,
and Ben Battle, yes. But that's my hunch at the moment.
Okay, David, any strong thoughts on the Irish Derby?
Well, if the home team don't want to go for Ireland, I will.
Good, someone's got to step up to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Aidan's record in the race just speaks for itself. I think it's something like 11 in 20 years, which is just incredible. So whatever he decides to send there, I will.
Cliffs of Moher going eclipse, so Wings of Eagles, surely they'll try and do the double, won't
exactly. I think I just more or less would be all right to go blind with it, just purely on the record and the trainer and everything with it. So I agree with Justin. There's a lot of imponderables at the moment. We are still finding out about all these horses, but I'll take the Derby winner. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've already I'm going to cross my wires here. I've said Valgeist, I really like his form, but, Permian and Ben Battle did boost that Derby form, and I think it could end up being one of those races that, in hindsight, is just very simple, and Wings of Eagles wins it. We'll look forward to what else there is on the Curragh card over the weekend. We've obviously got the Pretty Polly and the Railway, amongst other things. Has anyone got a big eye catch or something they can't wait to see? Paul, any betting on any of those races? Any strong thoughts?
Well, I haven't got the betting immediately in front of me now, Maddie, but I'm looking forward to a 2-year-old on Friday evening called Allura Park, trained by my very good friend, the Curragh Conjurer, Brendan Duke. She's out of So You Think, out of a nice mare called I'm Chic, who won first time at Naas, and she's been working really nicely at home.
Okay, very interesting. Justin, anything for you at the Curragh?
Well, I tell you, if that York has a chance of winning a furlong out, the Dukes will blow down that temporary stand with his. No doubt about that. I think the Railway Stakes looks potentially a cracking race with 2 horses that didn't go to Ascot. Beckford of Gordon Elliott's that won on his debut there, and one that finished just behind him at the Curragh, who was giving him weight that day, of Fozzie Stacks, called Commander Grigio. I think they were seriously considering running him in the Coventry. Decided to wait for this, and it could well pay dividends. It's a fascinating rematch between those two. I think Commander Grigio might just get the best of them on this occasion if they meet.
David, did you have time to have a look at anything else in Ireland?
Beckford as well, actually. I was hoping they'd come to Ascot. They didn't, but they seem to be. Gordon seems to be laying him out for this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how good he could be.
Yeah, he's a big talking horse, that he seems, doesn't he? Before we go, obviously, a quick reminder just to enter our competition. But we will, of course, do the Twitter Q&A. First off, I've said we've sort of touched on this and we'll come back to it. A good friend of mine, Oliver Brett, says, why has the biggest start of today, Highland Reel, not received the credit and the love of Golden Horn, St Nicholas Abbey, Cirrus de Zagos, etc.? David, considering we're the ones who discussed this mainly, I'll go to you and ask you that.
It's just the way certain horses resonate, and for whatever reason, Highland Reel just doesn't capture the imagination. It could be the visual side of it. I mean, with Golden Horn, and I can see St Nicholas Abbey. I mean, St Nicholas Abbey, obviously, sadly no longer with us, but he kind of almost grew in stature with the illness. Cirrus de Zagos just kept coming back from. There's always something you can sort of pin on all of those horses. With Highland Reel, can you?
He doesn't fit into a pigeonhole,
Can you remember
does he?
Highland Reel's best 3 wins, for example? They don't jump off the page at you. That's not to take much away from him. He is a great horse, but he just doesn't. There's just not that wow factor, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if it's that he never had that massive reputation as a young horse. I remember watching him win at Goodwood, and it was sort of like he'd always promised a bit, but then he'd never really delivered it, and now he is delivering it. It's almost people like horses to be unbeatable and outright stars from the start. And maybe he's just not. Justin, you a Highland Reel fan, and why do you think he's not getting the credit?
I'm definitely getting there as a Highland Reel fan. Maybe it's because the races that he's won they are races that don't capture the imagination anymore. The King George used to be the race of the summer. It's very far from that now. Apart from the Breeders' Cup Turf, he's been winning. It's the races that he's been winning rather even more so than the competition he's been beating. I think that's an
interesting point.
Yeah, that's not capturing the imagination. I think he has to win an arc to do it, and maybe he will.
Do you think? I'm not so sure. I don't think I'd want to be backing him for an arc at this stage. Obviously, he's got that experience.
Well, he'd want quick ground.
Yeah, I was going to say he's a very versatile horse, but I think one thing we all know he needs is quick conditions. I'll go over to you two in Ireland, maybe Paul to start off with, and then back to Justin with this one. Kevin Kelly asks, after Ascot, whose 2-year-olds are stronger, England or Ireland? No surprises for what you two are going to say. Paul, what do you reckon?
Yeah, the difficult question and a good question, Maddie, because September has really been Aidan's only 2-year-old that's won first time out, and she's clearly very, very good after her performance at Royal Ascot and in the 1,000 guineas and Oaks betting. So she sets a high standard, but Aidan's 2-year-olds generally haven't been performing first time. But yeah, I've got to go for Ireland, I guess.
Okay, and one last question from Leon Hedgecock. He says, is Fly Me to the Stars a Prescott good thing in the plate on Saturday? Obviously, we've not really mentioned the Northumberland plate. Endless Acres ran well at Ascot and boosted that form. David, have you had a look at the race yet?
No.
No, not at all. Justin, have you had a look at the race yet?
I haven't a clue, and I know nothing about the horse anyway.
I actually watched this horse win last time at Newcastle. I think he's probably going to need to step up again, but as you say, being from the Prescott yard, you can't discount him. Sorry, Liam, that wasn't the greatest answer in the world. Right, that should do us for this week then. Don't forget to rate the Postcast and subscribe on iTunes if you enjoy listening to them when I can get my words out. Thank you very much, and it's goodbye from me, David, Justin and Paul.
Paddy Power stream all UK and Irish racing live on your mobile, tablet or PC. Unlike some other high street bookies, Paddy Power, you beauty!